We'll take 2 steps to your left.
It's live. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I am Tony Gerdeman, here as always with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
I don't know, Tony. Am I in the shot? More importantly, are you in the shot? More importantly, am I in the shot? I don't know.
We're both in the shot, fortunately.
For our first podcast ever, first ever time doing a live video on YouTube. Very nervous, lots of concerns.
2 hands on the mic.
2 hands on the, you gotta,
So
seatbelt buckled.
Definitely. So welcome, everybody. It is a Wednesday evening as we record this live to tape. Just finished up at the Woody with interviews with cornerbacks coach Tim Walton, offensive line coach Justin Frye, cornerback Jordan Hancock, tight end G. Scott, and middle linebacker Tommy Eichenberg. Tom, was I 5 for 5?
You, assuming there were 5 people, then yes, you were 5 for 5. You got them all.
It was good that we don't always get to talk to coaches during the week, so this was a good timing, honestly, to talk with Justin Frye about the offensive line, the issues there, and also talk to Tim Walton about the secondary ahead of a game against Western Kentucky, who will throw the ball probably 75% of the time that they have the ball, and how, whether that's 35 passes or 60 will depend on the defense. But good to get updates from both of those guys, and I'm expecting a lot of throwing of the football, Tom, on Saturday.
Yeah, I think that's probably a good assumption on both sides of the ball, and with as much as Ryan Day has talked about, number of plays and tempo and not getting the number of drives that they wanted to before, you're going to want to make the most of those drives and keep the chains moving, and you're going to do that most likely through the air. So, that's the Ohio State side of the ball. And on the Western Kentucky side of the ball, that's what they do. They throw the football around quite a bit. And, I would fully expect, I would be surprised if there were not 40 pass attempts for Western Kentucky. Would not be shocked if they got to 50, 300, 350 yards. I think just sort of prepare yourself for the fact that they are going to, Ohio State is going to give up 300 or 350 yards passing at least. And 400 isn't completely out of the realm of possibility.
No, and it'll come down to tackling and obviously a coverage bust that you don't want to have. There was a 6th player, Emeka Ibuka, because when he talked about the clock, he talked about how the clock moves so much faster now, and that I think it was after maybe it was the Indiana game, because it was their first experience with it. He said after the game it felt like that was just the first half. That's how quick it went. So that was the 6th player, the 6th interview with the Ohio State secondary, because you're trying to prepare the people for 350, 300 yards, somewhere in that range passing. I asked Tim Walton, have you prepared your guys that they're going to give up catches? Because it's something that they don't want to do. And his answer was, it's not really about preparing them to give up catches. It's about preparing them to compete for every ball, and compete on every single pass. And that hasn't been an issue for them. And as we know, cornerbacks are supposed to not have any memory. So if they do give up a catch, the point would be to not give up another one. And then if they give up that one, just whatever is next, go after that one as hard as you did the first one. And overall, I think they're looking. I know they're looking forward to this one. For one of the reasons why is because Western Kentucky quarterback Austin Reed will throw the ball everywhere and believes he can make every throw. And cornerbacks like that kind of opportunity to make plays.
Yeah, they want the opportunity to make plays. They want the opportunity to break on the ball. Jordan Hancock talked about the fact that Reed will put the ball in a spot where only his receiver can get it, which then means the corner has to be more aggressive, break on it earlier to get to the ball, get their hands on it. One thing they have going for them is the streak is dead. They did have a cornerback record an interception last week in Denzel Burke. No interceptions, I think, all of last year, right?
Correct.
No interceptions all of last year for the Ohio State cornerback unit. So, that streak is over. Hancock was asked, was that something that you guys were aware of? He said, oh yeah, we talked about it all the time. So, that's good. And, the positive spin on that would be that you get a better, you feel a little bit better, and you get a little bit, okay, you've got, You got one now that kind of gets you moving towards getting more.
Yeah, it loosens the lid, if you will, greases the skids, that sort of thing. And Tim Walton was asked about that as well. He's like, yeah, that can absolutely happen. And this would be the week where they're facing a quarterback in Austin Reed who averages an interception a game. But if you look back at the Auburn game last year, threw a couple of interceptions in that one, completed under 50% of his passes, and generally just trying a lot of different things, which I expect to have happen in this one, where you've got to do whatever you can to try and score and win this game in a tough environment for Western Kentucky. So I expect them to take some chances through the air, and there will be opportunities for Ohio State's corners and safeties, whoever they may be. I will say that Josh Proctor is back practicing. I asked Tim Walton, will he be starting? And he said, well, that is still to be determined based on how the week of practice goes.
Yeah, and one more thing from Jordan Hancock that was interesting. His perspective was they're going to be throwing the ball over the place. I think you have to assume they're going to make some plays. And he said, you've got to wrap up, you got to tackle, you got to swarm, you got a lot, you give up a 7-yard catch, it's got to stay a 7-yard catch and not turn into a 25-yard catch. They have to get guys on the ground. And, they've done a pretty good job. You talked to Tim Walton about just keeping leverage, because that was an issue for them last week. That's going to be something that is a really big issue for them to focus on this week too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We'll get to them eventually. Super chats, of course, go to the top of the line. But leverage, they're going to be spread out all over the place. So it's, as Tim Walton said, just keep them inside. Force the ball back inside, and somebody will hopefully be there to tackle them. But overall, this is going to be a fun test to watch, because you've got 3 corners, Jordan Hancock mainly at nickel now, but with Davis Nigbanos and Denzel Burke, all 3 have been outstanding to this point in the season, but they have not been tested in any way like they will be in this game. And Malachi Corley, Western Kentucky's top receiver, is still banged up. Not really sure if he's going to go. We'll see, I guess, what the verdict is there. Not that Western Kentucky is going to be overly open on his situation, but they're going to plan for him to play like Ohio State. We're going to game plan that he's not going to be in the game.
Right. Yeah. And I asked Ryan Day about that a couple of years ago before a Penn State game. It was like Noah Cain was, and it was kind of like, how do you prepare not knowing? He's like, oh, he's going to play. And it was like, I tried to ask the question in a different way to get a more extensive answer, and basically got, no, he's going to play. So I think he was right that time, but I don't remember for sure. But, that's just the mentality they're going to have going in. This is a really good time for this game to come in the Ohio State schedule, where, okay, now you've got your quarterback, so the offense should be better. We'll talk about the offensive line in a little bit, but the offensive line should be better. So you're going to be able to put up a few more points. Hope, ideally, is the plan anyway. You're a little more efficient on offense. You're a little more explosive on offense. So then, if they give up 20, okay, it's not the end of the world. But this comes at such a good time, because you're going to face Sam Hartman's going to be throwing the ball around next week in South Bend. So being out there with all of these guys, with a Western Kentucky team that's, it's like the Notre Dame JV, maybe. It's not skill-wise, talent-wise, it's not the same as Notre Dame's team, but you're going to get stressed in certain ways with that passing game that's going to prepare them, and give them a better sense for what they might kind of be facing in a week from now in South Bend.
Yeah, and we'll get a good look at how well they tackle in this one, because there's going to be a lot of open in space types of plays where they need to make sure they are clean and solid, just as they will against Notre Dame. So it's a different offense, but it is good preparation for the things they will need to do. Like when Ryan Day says, the thing about special teams is everything you're learning on special teams is football related. Like, you're learning about football every time, any rep you do on special teams, everything that you're going to be doing against Western Kentucky can be applied to what you're going to be doing defensively, in terms of just the logistics, the technique, the fundamentals of the one-on-one tackles to keep them in front of you.
Yeah, and, Jordan Hancock had a pretty good synopsis of what they've got to do this weekend. Quote, "We've just got to cover our dude," which, that is big if true. He was asked a little bit about
coaching point.
It is a good coaching point. And you know what? If they do that, good things will probably happen.
I could be a coach.
There you go. It's actually harder than it looks. It is Hancock was asked about playing in the slot because, you go back a couple of years. Remember Sean Wade playing in the slot. Sean Wade was kind of open about the fact that, he's in the slot now, but he really wants to be an outside guy. And, is that something that is Jordan, what Jordan Hancock wants to do? And he said, you got to remember, he was kind of recruited as a slot guy. That was sort of where he was sort of recruited as that nickel guy. And he said he's still got to keep working on his eye discipline and that kind of stuff. But, I think he would like to be outside maybe, but he's not approaching it necessarily the same way that Sean Wade kind of did. It looks like we have a super chat.
Super chat, Ryan Dawes. Player of the game picks or free choice?
Player of the game picks or free choice?
I guess, or he just
anything. No. We'll do player of the game picks.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe player of the first half. I think Travion Henderson's going to have a good day. Watching, Kevin, and you watched Western Kentucky USF. Did you not see some wide open running lanes for all kinds of running backs against that Western Kentucky defense? And it was rhetorical. It's rhetorical.
Yeah.
See,
nod behind the camera.
Yes,
that way the people can hear you. The people can hear you nodding.
So
Yes.
you can hear the rocks. I'm sorry. Anyway.
I'm not going to hear that John Furman lost his black stripe.
Oh, John Furman, long snapper, lost
There
his
you
black
go.
stripe. There you go.
Good job.
Arizona State transfer.
I'm going with, although Kyle McCord is also going to put up numbers.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to go ahead and take the starting running back of a Big Ten school to be the player of the game.
Mm. Well, I mean, that's fine. I'll go with
7 carries.
I will go with it's probably cheating to pick Marvin Harrison Jr. because that's kind of like, it feels like that might be the answer kind of just about every week this year. So I'm not going to do that. I'll go on the defensive side of the ball, and I will say that Davison Igbinosun has an interception and like also a pass breakup or a forced fumble or something like that, like an interception and also some other kind of play. And I think Jordan Hancock might be someone who you're going to be hitting that slot guy a lot. Jordan Hancock can have a lot of opportunities potentially to make a play there. So I'm going to go with Igbinosun because I think he'll probably get more snaps than Hancock does. I mean, the really interesting question is how much do they play Sonny Styles this weekend? Because if you're looking at a very pass-heavy offense, typically if it's a passing down, 3rd and 8, they're pulling Sonny Styles off the field and putting Jordan Hancock in. What if every down is a passing down, Tony?
Every down will be a passing down, unless they're good. And even if you pick up 9 yards on first down, second down isn't necessarily something you can do about it because they're running up tempo. So either basically if Sonny Styles is not on the field on first down and Western Kentucky, picks up 9 yards on and it's 2nd and 1, they can't bring him in.
Well,
because they're going to be moving. It's going to be tough to substitute.
When you're a pass-heavy underdog like Western Kentucky, 2nd and 1 might also be a shot down. That's a even if you thought they were going to run,
any 3rd and 1, like if he's not on the field already, it's going to be difficult to get him out there unless it comes after incompletion or something like that. I'm fascinated to see what they do because clearly they didn't necessarily want him out there on passing downs last week, and I assume that's for a reason. I do, yes, Jordan Hancock is better defender of the pass, better man defender than Sonny Styles. Like we have always questioned, how can you expect this guy to cover slot receivers?
Yeah,
that's not exactly his makeup. So it's not a surprise that Jordan Hancock is going to be that guy. But this is not the kind of opponent that suits what they do with Sonny. So we have to assume it's not the kind of opponent that suits Sonny.
Yeah, and I thought Ross Fulton had a really good way of describing it on our board, the Huddle board at BuckeyeHuddle.com, exclusive to Buckeye Huddle members. He talked about the fact that they call him a nickel, but really they're using him like he's that Sam linebacker, where it's a Pete Werner or someone like that, and you can drop into deep coverage, and you saw Pete Werner drop into like a deep coverage sometimes, but Pete Werner, the goal was not to have Pete Werner carrying a receiver 30 yards down the seam. The goal was to have him playing closer to the line of scrimmage, be impact in the passing game, close to the line in the passing game, impact in the run game. That may be a better way to think of Sonny's role, because you say nickel and it's like, oh, he's a defensive back. And it's like, well, sort of, but also the nickel is the guy who covers the slot. And that doesn't seem like how they're really using him right now.
And also, I don't know that it's kind of dangerous to put him out there on first down, because you may not then be able to get him off the field, and they may go right after him, and you might find out that now we're in trouble. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they handle that. You can't not play him.
Right.
So you have to, when he's out there, you're going to have to do stuff with him that makes him effective, and that may be as a fifth pass rusher out of that spot. And then, you pick up the blitz behind him, that sort of thing.
Are you playing more zone when he's out there? That and you can't exclusively play zone, because then, hey, there's number 6. Okay, they're going to be in zone. Like you can't just oversimplify it like that. But there are ways to adjust and make him not have to carry a short, speedy slot receiver across the middle. And who knows? We haven't really seen him have to do it. So maybe he can do it. We haven't seen him do it. And the coaching staff is acting as if that's something that they don't think is going to go consistently really well for them. So you kind of have to assume that that's based on what they've seen in practice.
Yeah. Moving to Kevin, you got something?
I have questions, but go ahead and say what you're
Well, let's touch the offensive line, and then we can go to questions, because there are plenty of concerns about the offensive line, the physicality. Justin Frye said the word they're using this week is violence. They want the offensive line to be more physical, more violent, to be just, beat the guy across from you, because at this point, that's been the issue. And it's not necessarily not understanding. It's just not getting the job done against the guy in front of you. And so that's the focus this week, just being more violent, more physical. I did ask him, has there been a difference in the physicality between the gap scheme and the zone scheme? Because you have some people who believe you can't, like, zone is cowardly football because it's not as physical. He's like, no, nothing like that. It's just knowing what guys can do and what defensive teams do best against as well. So sometimes you might run something because it's been effective in the past against that defense. And then it's also obviously what the offensive line is comfortable doing. And Ryan Day wants them to be able to do both. Justin Frye wants them to be able to do both. And so far it's mixed reviews.
Yeah, well, and I thought it was interesting, and I kind of was half hearing him because I was pretty far towards the back, because I was kind of also monitoring another table. But I want to, you can tell me if I heard this all correctly. It sounded like he said they were getting to the right people, but it's like, and then what's your demeanor? They're in the right spots a lot of time, but you're not necessarily finishing the play, maybe not necessarily, get the guy to the ground, whatever it is. So that's, that's a, they're cutting down on the mental mistakes. Now you just have to execute at the point of attack. One thing that I thought was really interesting was he was asked about Josh Simmons and the penalties that Josh Simmons took last week. And, you remember there was the one that was the hands to the face penalty. I think that might've been the one that negated the touchdown run. And then he had a hold that negated a 3rd and 1 play that they didn't pick up anyway. But, the hands to the face one, he said, he was kind of in the right spot, and just when your hands get up like that, you've got to recognize and, disengage, basically. Just recognize, like, hey, up here, nothing good is happening up here. Because when you rip the guy's helmet off, that's a pretty obvious penalty. Like, that's going to get called, that's going to get noticed, and that's going to get called. And he said there was a block later in the game where he was kind of in the same position, basic position relative to the other guy. Hands started kind of going up, and he recognized it and got him down and didn't take a penalty that time. So, that's encouraging. You're looking for little progress at this point, just small incremental steps of progress. That's one. Let's see what it looks like this weekend.
Josh Simmons out there like Ricky Bobby, like, I don't know what to do with my hands.
No, you want those going down. Yes.
He did say the communication overall has been improved, has gotten better. I do expect this is an Western Kentucky defense that is not good against the run. So if they're not able to run the ball this week, there are issues. So I do expect them to run the ball, unless if it's just like ankle tackles and arm tackles, that's the fault of the running backs, and then you can go ahead and pin the blame on them. But we will see. Kevin, you got some.
Well, he did talk about the fact they got 9 yards on the first play, and then the second play, I think it might have been Henderson running the ball, kind of got tackled like an arm tackle, I said, and that was like the last guy. If he didn't get, you could have had a 70-yarder or whatever on that first drive. One other thing that he mentioned was some of the younger guys or the backups who were kind of coming along. And in order, he mentioned Vic Cutler, Tager Shabola, and Enoch Famahi. So just if you are kind of formulating your circle of trust in terms of beyond the top 5, or I guess top 6, because obviously Luke Montgomery's out there, those are kind of the next guys who are in that area.
Yeah.
Mika Hanna is asking, does Dallin Hayden get a chance to play?
Does Dallin Hayden get a chance to play?
At the expense of whom?
Right. Well, it's the last drive type of thing. Like I think we saw him against Indiana, where you don't want to put Mayan out there to wrap this one up. Even though I think Mayan was out there against Youngstown State, like that's beneath your veterans, and so it might be him. But at this point, don't expect him to get any meaningful reps because he's running 4th right now, and there's not even enough carries at this point for 3 guys, and there's barely enough. There's not enough for 2.
Yeah.
Unless they start getting some first downs and picking up these third downs, and then there might be enough for 2. But there's Dallin Hayden at this point. I don't know where they're coming from. However, you say that, and we saw what happened last year, and that's good. That's the message they will continue to tell him. Like you have to stay ready. Everybody has to stay ready. Devin Brown, you have to stay ready, because we've seen some crazy things around here in this building, and to expect nothing crazy to happen this year would probably be foolish.
Right. You went through your entire running back depth chart last year, and you would have played Evan Pryor too if Evan Pryor hadn't suffered an injury before the season. So someone is going to get hurt. You never have a full running back room. Can you remember a season when the full running back room, everyone was healthy all year and no one was game time decision or questionable at the beginning? I mean, that position takes a lot of beating, a lot of just physical toll that accumulates over the course of the season. Now, the fact that they're running the ball less and spreading it out more, maybe that makes guys stay a little bit healthier, and you don't have that kind of cumulative toll over the course of the season. But yeah, I would expect at some point you're going to, someone is going to go down, someone's going to miss a game or two, and then that's when you're going to see guys. But right now, I mean, they had 6 and 5 carries for the top 3 running backs last week, so it's not like they're just running guys into the ground. And every time you give a running back the ball, you're not throwing the ball to Marvin Harrison or Emeka Egbuka, which sure seems like the best version of this Ohio State offense runs an awful lot through Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka.
Yeah, there's 17 carries between those 3 guys, when in the past, 17 carries has been like, are you giving that guy the ball enough? He's only gotten 17 carries. And now that's 3 guys trying to share that. And I still don't think you can – you're not maximizing the potential of each guy by having them split 3 ways, especially with the way the few carries that they're getting right now. It's very difficult to run them in and out like that. I don't think they can get a great feel. It's probably difficult to get a feel for the offensive line and also the defensive line, what's going on there. So I do expect it to get smaller rather than big enough to incorporate a 4th guy.
And I do want to real quickly touch on one more thing, which we talked about this on, one of the previous shows. We do a bunch of these tries, it turns out, during football season. Talked about, hey, you're going to have to run the ball at some point this year. You can't just rely solely on the pass. And that's still true. And there were people saying, like, why can't you just rely on Marvin Harrison and Emeka Egbuka? They're going to throw the ball to those guys. They recognize that those are probably maybe their 2 single best weapons on offense. The game plan is going to be to get those guys the ball. At some point, it's going to be cold and windy. At some point, a team is going to say, we're just going to drop 8, and you're going to have to figure it out. And maybe those guys can get open, but can they get open consistently enough? Maybe not. You're going to need to hit your tight ends with some passes, but you're also, Tony, it's the Big Ten. Are you going to need to run the ball? It feels like you might need to run the ball from time to time.
From time to time. And also remember what the over-reliance or the reliance upon Marvin Harrison last year, what happened when he went down. So it's like it's better to have plenty of options and spread that around rather than just expect one guy to save the day.
And speaking of Marvin Harrison, you're not going to believe it, but he's on the Monarch machine, just over about 50 yards or so to our right. How about that? What a shock!
The minutes on the machine don't carry over to the next month. You got to get those minutes in.
All right. If we don't let Kevin ask a question, he might explode. Kevin,
don't make this about me. Odysseus 2002 would hope they can hold them under 300 yards passing.
Would hope that you can hold Western Kentucky under 300 yards passing. I honestly, passing yards, against a passing team is something that is as important as total offense allowed relative to points. Tell me how many points, and then I'll tell you whether or not 300 yards is a lot or nothing or important.
Yeah, total yards. I mean, I'm using total yards when I talk about this just because it's sort of a shorthand. If it's 325 yards, but they do that on 7.4 yards per attempt, that's probably fine. If they're doing 320 something yards, but they're doing it on 10 yards per attempt, okay, well then they're probably moving the ball. They're probably getting some short fields. I mean, yards per attempt is the number I'd actually be looking for beyond just points. You have seen Ohio State throw for 300 yards and put up, a small number of points. Dwayne Haskins put up, how many? I mean, set a passing record in terms of passing completions, passing attempts, maybe passing yards that he later broke, I think, against Northwestern in a game where Ohio State lost by 3 touchdowns to Purdue. So just because you're putting up yardage doesn't necessarily mean frequently. A lot, you go through the Ohio State record books, a lot of the biggest yardage passing games win for the Buckeyes and for the opponents, that quarterback lost. Super chat,
yes, from Ben Ricker. Thanks for manning up and going live. Do you both think that Devin Brown got enough snaps in these 2 games? Everyone, please like the video.
Oh, everyone, please like the video. That is a tremendous point, and I strongly agree.
Yes, and that's a super chat. So that means really like it. Do we think Devin Brown got enough snaps in the first 2 games? Obviously, he didn't get enough in the first game. I think I saw enough in that second game to see that he's not as consistent as Kyle. Now, would that change in 3 games? At this point, you have to stop evaluating at some point and make your decision. And I think from he probably had 12 practices in the spring, missed a week, and then 25 practices in fall, and then 2 weeks worth of practices in there. Tom, that's a lot of math. 50 odd practices at that point, and then 2 games.
47, but go on.
I said 50 odd. That's 47 is an odd number, and we round up. So I do think they got enough of a look, and really what they saw is in practice, I think justifies Kyle McCord being the starter for the first 2 games. And then what we saw in that second game particularly justifies Kyle McCord being named the official starter and moving forward. So I think we saw enough of Devin Brown. Basically, he played more than Kyle McCord. He had more snaps than Kyle McCord.
Yeah, he did. Against
Youngstown
State. Yeah. Devin Brown had 35 snaps. Kyle McCord had 30 against Youngstown State. So, yeah, I mean, he certainly got enough the second week. The first week, obviously, no, that was not a apples to apples thing. Week 2, but what you saw in week 2 when it was pretty much 50-50 was very much in line with what you would have expected to see if you took the coaching staff at face value and them saying, Kyle was more consistent coming out of the, towards the end of fall camp. When you're, consistency being the word we keep hearing over and over and over again from Day in terms of what they're looking for. So he was more consistent during camp. He was more consistent during game practices, and then more consistent during the games when you saw it. So, yeah, I mean, it feels like, if you had gotten some really, bizarre, unexpected result where, boy, Devin Brown led them down the field to 4 touchdowns and Kyle McCord only put up 3 points in his 5 drives or whatever. Yeah, absolutely. Like, you reevaluate it. It feels like you got exactly what you probably were, exactly what it would have looked like if everything was kind of going the way the coaches told you. So yeah, that feels like enough confirmation to me.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go with. It was confirmation of everything that they had seen and everything we had heard. Kevin?
Glasswing Butterfly. Going to be an interesting game. Can't wait to see our cornerbacks run free.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the corners against this offense. I'm with you. These are 3 very confident guys, and I do think they're going to give up some plays. Now, do they give up plays or giving up a play and giving up a catch? Right? To me, 2 different things. And you're going to give up catches, but if they limit the plays, the explosives, then you walk away from this one thinking these guys are really good. Like, they seem really good right now, but we have we have not seen the type of opponent that would justify you being definitive. Like, these guys are really good.
Yeah, and I don't know that I'm going to say that after this weekend, but I think you could walk away from this game feeling better about their chances against Notre Dame if if you're giving up 7.5 yards per attempt against Western Kentucky. If you are, because if you're doing 7.5 yards per attempt, that is, you're knocking balls down. There's going to be a bunch of incompletions in there, because you're gonna average 10, maybe 12 yards per completion. But if it's 7 yards per attempt, then you've got incompletions. You've got guys. You're tackling guys. They catch, you get them on the ground, you don't have a bunch of yak. I mean, that's all the stuff, yards after catch. Sorry, speaking in acronyms here. You have to, if you're forcing incompletions, if you're getting guys on the ground, you're not giving up yards after catch. That's what you're looking for this week, more than just like, it has to be under this number.
Yeah, the tackling is going to be huge. And as Tim Walton continued to say, basically, they may not run the ball a lot, but they use the outside screen game as part of their running game. So those guys will have to tackle. And I know how much Ohio State fans love the Ohio State wide receiver screen game. So get excited to watch some of it from Western Kentucky, even though I can hear everybody saying, seems like everybody else does it better than Ohio State. But again, at times, as I've said before, I don't like the word seems. Kevin?
Yeah. Odysseus, they gave up 300 plus USF on the ground. Wonder if the ground game should take advantage.
I definitely, USF rushed for over 300 yards in the season opener against Western Kentucky. I do expect Ohio State to take advantage, but how many plays does that mean?
Well, that's I'm not looking for 300 yards rushing. I'm looking for, can Ohio State rush for 7 yards per attempt? Yep. Can Ohio, if Ohio State rushes for 6.5 yards per attempt, that's okay. That's fine. You want to be able to, but you want to be able to do 7 yards per attempt, 7.5 yards per attempt against Western Kentucky. So, so that translates to 5.5, 6 yards per attempt against Penn State or someone like that. Because maybe Notre Dame. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what that, how that calculation or that, the currency exchange there works. But yeah, I'm not necessarily looking for a total yardage number. I'm looking for yards per rush.
Yeah.
Jordan Kapler, which of the OSU quarterbacks can throw a football over dim mountains? Do you think Ken Holtz has an unfair advantage due to his state of origin?
So which OSU football quarterback could throw football over them mountains, and does Lincoln Kienholz have an advantage because he is from South Dakota? Throwing a football over them mountains with presidents' faces on it, definitely. I mean, the mountains aren't very high in Ohio. That's more of an Ohio University issue rather than Ohio State.
Well, I mean, try throwing a football over them. You don't think they're that high. Try throwing a football. Go to Hocking Hills and try to throw a football over the hills. Hey,
well, that's what I'm saying. That's Ohio University.
Go to Chillicothe.
That's Nathan Rourke's problem. That's not Kyle McCord's problem. Yeah, strongest arm. I mean, Kyle McCord's got a big arm. I don't feel like I've seen Lincoln Kienholz enough, but I think Kyle McCord probably has the strongest arm in that room right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think the strongest arm down the pike might be Tavian St. Clair, but yeah, I would go with Kyle McCord. Although Devin Brown made some nice throws to the sideline that showed some good arm strength, but downfield it was less effective than Kyle McCord. But over a mountain, if I had to choose one, I'm gonna take McCord out of this quarterback room. So. Tom, you have anything else?
No, I think we're good. As always, we're walking out of here, and Jerry says something about see you on the lightning round. It's like, that's not. Oh my! Yeah. How is it already almost Thursday? These game weeks just fly by.
Like, we should release our own Twitter. OSU doing the work week done. OSU football. It's like as they're breaking the chairs down here, it's like work week done, because tomorrow is lightning round, and then it's like best Fridays in football coverage, which. I tend to, I still work, unlike a lot of people. But anyway.
Kevin's right there.
You look right at Kevin. Kevin's like, come on, let's go. Kevin's got to go.
Oh, he doesn't want to work, huh?
Anyway, one more thing, Tom. We'll go ahead. I want to thank you all for joining us here on this Wednesday night. As always, find us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. Become a member. It's a great way to support us and what we do. And of course, you can find us at YouTube.com/BuckeyeHuddle as well. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll talk to you guys later.